A contractor's journey to self-mastery requires discipline, integrity, and respect. Welcome to Hammer and Grind.
Welcome to Hammer and Grind, the podcast built for contractors. Real contractors, true stories, real solutions. My name is Brad Huebner, and I will be your guide on your journey to self-mastery of your construction business. If this is your first time here, we have lots of great content out there for you. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok under Hammer and Grind Podcast. You can also check out our free Facebook group called the Contractor Profit Group, where we have free trainings and conversations to help you in your business. If you want to shortcut the pain of doing things the wrong way, invest in yourself by signing up for our paid coaching group called the Profit Club. You can find out more information about that at hammerandgrind.com/the Profit Club. On today's show, I have a very special guest to talk about the contracting business from a wife's perspective. I'd like to introduce a very intelligent and beautiful woman who is also my support system, my wife, Bethany. Dear, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Hello, everyone. No problem, dear. I'm happy to help you, as always.
So, as I mentioned, she is my support system. And today we're going to be talking about the contracting business from the wife's perspective. Now, we will lay out the foundation here in that my wife has a full-time job. She does not work in my business. And so this is from a perspective of, a wife who is not actively working in the contracting business. So with that being said, first question, in one sentence, what's it like being married to a contractor?
An amazing roller coaster.
Roller coaster?
Yeah. Not everybody likes roller coasters. So, not everyone probably should be married to a contractor. There's some highs on roller coasters and there's some lows. There's some times where you're scared out of your mind. And there's some times where you're like, this is the most amazing feeling ever. So it's kind of like that.
Well, I guess that's a fair description of what it's like. Now, I've been in business for my 11th year, and we've been married ever since I started the business. So you've been there since the very beginning. What was it like in the beginning of my business for you?
Oh, man, it was really hard. I was really naive, and I think I still am naive in a lot of ways, but I really had no idea what I was getting myself into marrying a contractor or marrying a business owner, how that was going to impact our relationship, how that was going to impact our family. So I think there was just a lot of things for me to learn early on. So it was really hard to really process that early in our marriage, on top of learning how to be married and how to be a supportive wife or a business owner. So I think there was a lot of learning. The learning curve was very great at the beginning.
Well, that's a fair statement. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is because, we always talk about stuff from the contractor's perspective. And I think a lot of times we don't actually consider from our family's perspective, whether it's our spouse or kids, employees, whatever, people besides ourselves. So I really wanted to have you on here and talk about these things. So early on, obviously any new business starting out is going to have, they're not going to be killing it on their first year. Like they're not going to, making huge profits right out of the get-go. So were you ever stressed out about finances because I wasn't making enough money?
I feel like these are like burning questions. Yeah, that was definitely the case. So, a little bit of background is, when we first got married, I had just graduated graduate school and was in residency and, not only making about 80% of a normal salary of a physical therapist. We had 2 kids. Yeah, it was really, really hard because, even at the beginning, you didn't pay yourself a salary. it was, you would do kind of those member draws, and it was always kind of questionable if there was going to be one, that month. And when we looked at the monthly budget, we tried to just make it based off of my salary. But even then it was really, really hard because, we want to go out to eat, or we'd want to do something fun together. Cause, again, we're early in our marriage and we have two kids, 8 and 13. The girls were that age, and we were going to soccer tournaments out of town. I mean, so yeah, it was really, really stressful. I think it was probably more stressful for you though, because I'm not really driven by that. I can be pretty comfortable in lots of different circumstances when it comes to money, but it was stressful for me, but I think it was probably more stressful for you.
Well, we're not talking about me here, dear. We're not talking about how stressed out I was. No, yeah, you're definitely very frugal and not motivated by money. So
I'm the saver in our relationship. So here's
absolutely.
The thing is, you're the spender and I'm the saver. And so what would stress me out was not having enough savings. Like, God is good and God blessed us in many, many ways. I had thousands of dollars of student loan debt that we had to pay off. I had over $70,000 of student loan debt. So on top of all that stress of a new business, plus my student loan debt, plus raising a family, it was incredibly stressful. And for me, I like to have a certain number in my bank account from a savings perspective. And that just wasn't possible because we had all those outgoing things. So yeah, it was really, really tough in those early days.
Well, we did one thing right. And that's, so whenever I was toying with the idea of starting a business, we were engaged and not married yet. And so, but with the process of getting married, we were buying a house. We ended up buying a house on short sale, and it needed some work. So I had about 3 months or so worth of work that needed to be done to it, which was kind of like butting up right to our marriage. So we tried to time it so we could like move into this house right when we got married. But the reason I'm telling you that is that we bought a house based on pretty much your income at the time. Like we knew that with the business starting, without knowing, with the unknown of the finances coming in, I don't remember exactly, and you might remember this, but I think I had to make like $1,000. I had to bring home like $1,000 a month to cover the shortcomings off of your income.
Yeah, I think actually that was like spot on. That's kind of what we budgeted, is how much we needed from you a month.
Right. And so basically I had to bring home $1,000 to cover any expenses. And we were, like you said, we had a bunch of debt from both of us. Of course, we were doing the Dave Ramsey debt snowball thing. But yeah, I mean, we were smart in that. I mean, had it been a situation where I had to make $3,000 or $4,000 a month, I think we would have been in big trouble. So that's about finances. And that's obviously early on because I didn't know what I was doing, right? Like I knew how to do the trade. I knew how to fix things and work on things and build things, but I didn't know anything about business because we talked about in a previous podcast about ego suppression. Here I am, I'm thinking I can figure it out and do it. And I'm getting this work, but it's like at 20% gross profit, which is terrible. So it's easy to get a lot of work when you're not making any money at it, right? So did we ever have any fights about my business?
Again, burning, loaded questions. Did we? I mean, I feel like that's a past tense question, but I feel like it's still should be in the future tense. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you would have to comment on this. I feel like for a majority of the time, I am very supportive wife and very much a supportive of your business and you being a business owner, and try to invest in the right ways to get you going forward. But yeah, I mean, we would have fights about your time, like how you were spending your time. I know early on the weekends we would have the girls, you would be working and I would be left alone, raising two teenagers, and that would frustrate me. I felt like a lot of times because the business came first, it was like our relationships and our family were abandoned at times. And that was really frustrating. It was really hard. And I think part of the selfishness in me was like, don't you want to be home with our family? Don't you want to be home with us? So I think that stemmed a lot of those arguments. I think some of the stress of the finances stemmed some of those arguments. I think now it's always a balance. I've learned a lot to know how much it takes to put into the business, and I think you've learned a ton over the years on how to be more productive and how to get more out of your daily work, that you can come home and you can invest in the family and you can not have to work on Saturdays and Sundays. And but it's partly our relationship too. I mean, maybe the listeners don't know as well, but like we're both kind of like hotheads when it comes to an argument situation. So,
No, come on now. Come on.
yeah. So I think, yeah, I mean, the simple answer is, yeah, we've had some arguments, but I think we've learned a lot from those and a lot more understanding. And both you've learned along the way, and I've learned, how to be better at being supportive and encouraging, and to not take some of those things so personal, and to know that you're going to need that time, or you're going to need to be able to invest in working hard and not maybe here when I would want you here.
Yeah, I think I tried to Vanguard early on, like when we were dating, like I'm a business owner. I'm going to be a business owner, right? Like that's not a 9-to-5 type of job where we're home every night. And I was like always trying to Vanguard against, that type of lifestyle. And I think if you run your business correctly, it can be, kind of a 9-to-5 type job. I mean, it can be similar to that. I mean, there's always going to be the late night emails or the phone call that comes in, employees sick or whatever. Like those things are still going to happen. But early on, I was like, working every Saturday, working late at night, till midnight because I had to get this estimate out for this customer. They were waiting for that estimate, and going around and doing the free estimates, in the evenings, many times early on where I would not get home till 6:30 or 7 at night because I was going out and looking at jobs. So a lot of that early on was just because of not knowing how to run a real business, contracting business. I know there were times, I mean, you're very much a hands off of the business. Now there's been times over the years where I've asked you to help out with some admin stuff, and you've done that. But I mean, pretty much like you have no idea really what happens on the daily basis of the business. Like where I'm at. I mean, like currently where I'm at in the business.
True.
I mean, you're like, just give me the money each paycheck, and that's all I need.
Come on now. Come on. Come on.
But I mean, from a investment standpoint, from your perspective, like you're not really invested in the business on a day-to-day basis, is what I'm trying to say.
True. Yes. I have in the past put receipts in and tried to organize some file folders for you, but there is really nothing in your business that is within my skill set. And truth be told, I don't like doing things that I'm not 100% good at. So yeah, I just think it's your business. And you've said that to me a lot. It's our business. And I'm kind of like, no, I think it's kind of your business. And I really love that it's your business. But and I appreciate you including me. But yeah, I don't invest in the day to day. Of course, we talk about like, what job are you doing this week? And I surely market to my friends and family and all those things. But yeah, I mean, I'm not working in it day in, day out. We're not working together on certain projects. That would be a disaster. So
I definitely agree with that. We couldn't work together even if we wanted to. You're very much a scheduled, I don't want to say OCD because I don't think that's true, but I mean, you are kind of OCD, dear. Like you like everything to be in line and organized and scheduled. And
yeah, I will readily admit I have some OCD tendencies. I'll own that.
And I do as well. I mean, I'm pretty OCD about, how things are put away and organized and all that stuff. So we're not compatible to work together in the business. And that's okay. I mean, this is also, it's important for you and your spouse to figure out what works, right? So I remember early on, I'm like, man, all these other contractors have their wives help them, if I didn't have to answer the phone all the time and talk to these people on email and send out COIs and send out invoices, like I would have more time to make more money. You know what I mean? So like early on, there was probably some resentment there that you weren't like actually working in the business. But there are a lot of contractors that their wives do that. I mean, they work in the business, that they're the office. We have several in our group that are like that.
That's awesome. Good for them.
Yeah, and we even like Kristen Bender is in our group. We talked to her about that and how early on they had a crazy dynamic until she learned the profit sales system and how to sell better, and now they have a great dynamic and they're killing it in their business. So I do have another question for you here. What's the one thing that you are tired or were tired in the past? It could be present or past. What's one thing that you're tired of hearing about at the dinner table?
Well, number one is I got to find good help. Can't find good help. If I just had good help, that
I probably only said that like 2 times. Come on now.
I feel like it's been a little bit more than that. That and just being frustrated with. It's interesting, and I don't know if other relationships are like this, but you always your spouse is the person you vent to, and so I don't really hear a whole lot of positives. Like I don't really hear your wins. You don't really talk about your wins. I hear all the negatives. So you can't find good help. What went wrong on a job? Like when the plumbing was leaking, or you opened up the wall and sure enough there was all these problems. And I think that wears on you over time as a wife, as a spouse, is just like every night sitting at the dinner table, like, how was your day? And it's all negative. And I'm very optimistic person. And so it's like, I try to find the positive in the situation. And I don't know that you always appreciate that, because you kind of want to wallow in those for a little bit. And so I've learned over time to just kind of acknowledge and really just say, you know what, that really stinks. I'm really sorry. And honestly meaning, and I'm not like just placating you, but I think those are the things that are hard for me, is just to hear every night, like, what were the negatives? What were the things that went wrong? And gosh, for 11 years, we just can't find good help.
Dear, you're not supposed to throw me under the bus. Then you get the notes ahead of time about making everything sound perfect.
Well, you did tell me to be honest.
This, this, but being more like mindset and outcome is one of the top things that I've been working on for the last couple of years. I tend to be more of a negative person. And so that is probably one of my biggest weaknesses in my personal journey to self-mastery. So, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's from your perspective, like that's all you hear, right? And so, and it may not be that, I'm not complaining every day, obviously, but if all you hear, come out of my mouth, whether it's once a week or once a month, is negative things, then, there may be 10 positive things, but I only complain about the one negative, right? And so all you hear is the negative things. And then you start to think, man, all he does is have his negative problems. Like, why is he in business if all he has is negative things, and so on and so on?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I would agree with you that, man, over the last 2 to 3 years, you've really been pouring into learning more and learning how to be better. And I think, you've have had some adjustments to that where you're, finding some positives in things. But yeah, I think you don't say something every single day, but anytime we talk about the business, it's usually something negative. And so that's hard.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I can go back and look at it, and if I think about it intentionally, I can see that, right? But it's not something I think about like, oh, all I ever talk about is negative things. And you're right, it is mostly venting, right? It's not like we're just having regular conversations, and that's what I like to talk about. It's just usually I'm frustrated because of something that happened that day, and so I'm venting to you.
Yeah.
But it can get old after a while. So that's really good. That's a good point to take note of, guys, if you're always venting to your wife. So the next question kind of ties into this. What's it like for you seeing your spouse struggling in their business? I mean, really any aspect of it.
It's a real challenge. It especially for me, that because I'm so hands off on your business, I don't have a whole lot of things I can do to help you. And that feeling helpless, to me, especially, my why in life is to help people. That's why I became a physical therapist. That's why I became an educator. I want to help people. And so to see you struggle, to see you day in and day out, not feel like you're accomplishing your dreams or accomplishing your goals and being frustrated by that, is extremely, extremely difficult. And I ask you a lot all the time, how can I help? And it's like, there's not really anything you can do. And of the things that I could help you with, I don't necessarily have the time to help you with those things, being that I have a full-time job, currently going to school to get my PhD, and we have 5.5-year-old son. So it's a hard place. I don't like to see you struggle. I get sad that you have to go through those struggles. It's not fair. I say many times that's the F word that I don't really like, is the word fair, because life's not fair. But gosh, you work so hard. You put in so much work, and I just want the world for you. I just want the best for you. And so to see that not come to fruition in the way that you hope and dream is really hard.
Well, that's tough hearing you say that, actually. It's kind of funny. We've never actually had this conversation.
We haven't. I'm sitting here crying right now.
Who knew that going live on a podcast would actually have conversations about things we never talked about, dear? Okay. If you had a magic wand, and this is a word track we use in our sales training. If you had a magic wand, what's one thing that you would fix, or wish you could fix in my business? And it doesn't have to be like right now. It could be in early on. Like, what's one thing that you would fix if you had a magic wand?
If I could fix in your business, I would. I don't know what would be the driver. See, okay, this is how my mind works: is when I assess patients, I'm always looking for what's the driver. What is the one thing that if I can fix that one thing, everything else will fall into place, because our bodies are just innately connected. And so that's how I look at this question, is like, what's the one thing? And I think really having some strong employees that have strong skill sets and are loyal and passionate as you are about making people's homes amazing for them to live in and remodeled and those things. I think early on in the business and now, like, if I could have a magic wand, I would give you a team of employees that were loyal, passionate, hard workers that, really produced what you were looking for, so that you could do the things that you're really, really good at as well, and you're passionate about, by helping contractors like you do with this podcast, like you do with Profit Club, because, your heart is outwardly focused and you really want to be able to help others and help their businesses grow as well. And so I think that would be my magic wand swipe.
Well, that's a good one. I mean, that would probably be, it would either be that, or it would tie with knowing really what to charge, like early on in the business.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Like, see, that's the hard part too, is like you worked so many years for nothing, and you were like you said 20%. Well, sometime I remember many times actually where you would say, I lost money on that job. I lost money on that job. And that was pretty consistent just because not knowing how to estimate your time or estimate your helper's time, and then not charging enough certainly played a role in that. So I think again, it's like finding what's the driver in the situation, having what you've been put in place in the last several years with the profit sales system, and being able to know how to estimate and how to charge now is immensely different than what it was early on in the business, and how much happy you are. And I I don't hear you say I've lost money on a job anymore. I can't even remember the last time I heard you say that.
Well, that's partly because I quit telling you. No, I mean that doesn't usually happen. I mean, I may not make as much money because something happened, but I'm not losing money on jobs anymore. Well, that's yeah. I mean, those two things, finding good employees and charging more. I don't know if I've ever told you this, and it might be painful to hear, but I mean, I've roughly calculated that if I knew what I was charging from day one, what I should have charged versus what I did, and I probably cheated this out of over $1 million over the past 10 years.
Gut punch.
Yeah, exactly. But we know now, and we can change that. So, all right. So now we kind of led right into this. I mean, what's it like now? Once I learned how to charge more, once I started not wasting my time going out and doing free estimates and all that stuff. I mean, what's it like now for you in the business?
Well, there was a definite shift when you started using this process, when you started not having to go out to people's homes at 5 p.m. at night. I mean, we have dinner together as a family at 6:30 every night. And sometimes we don't have dinner at that time because of me now and not because of you. And there were so many times where we're like, I would keep your plate warm in the microwave and we wouldn't eat together because you were going out, and because so many people work 8 to 5 jobs and they couldn't have you come out to do your estimate until after 5. And so those sorts of things, I mean, were game changers. And gosh, like just the difference in you. I mean, just knowing that your time wasn't being wasted and you could be more productive with your time, like that made a big boost in you and your happiness as well, that bled over into our family and our relationship. So, I mean, tons of positives that I don't know that you probably have encapsulated as much because you maybe don't know, because I'm seeing that and seeing those things come out in you. So yeah, I think that really was a game changer for sure.
Well, that's why I wanted you on this podcast, because I wanted it from your perspective. I wanted other contractors who are out there grinding, working 15-hour days, spending the weekends and all the stuff. And maybe their wife doesn't say anything, because they don't want to. They want to be supportive, right? So they don't complain to their husband about working too many hours, unless it's gets to be really bad. But I mean, I'm glad you shared all that. So that leads us right into the next question as well. So for the contractors that are married, what's the one thing you would tell them they should know about their wife? And this, I'm speaking to male contractors who are married. What's the one thing they should know about their wife regarding the business? And this can be anything, like you said, complaining about the business, not sharing enough information. What's the one thing you would say to contractors that they need to know from a wife's perspective?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit tough to say one thing. I kind of go back to what I talked about earlier, is that, the venting can get old over time. So I think mixing in some positives in there, making sure that your wife feels secure in the fact that, the business is doing as best as it can too, and not hearing all of the negative. I think that is important to kind of maybe do the compliment sandwich sort of thing. Like, what's one good thing you can vent about your negative, and then also one good thing to follow up with, or something like that is really having those conversations, because, we really want to see you succeed as your partner. So we want to hear those wins and we want to celebrate with you, because I love celebrating. I love being excited with you. And I think a lot of times contractors are pretty modest, especially business owners. They get a win and then they're on to the next one. Like it's no big deal. And I think, celebrate your wins with your wife. Tell them about them just as much as you tell them about the things that frustrate you.
I love it. That's great advice. I'm taking notes here, by the way. All right. One last question, dear. This is for the wives. So for the contractors' wives, what piece of advice would you give them regarding their husband's business?
I think it probably depends on what kind of wife you are. Like, are you in the business? Are you not in the business? But from my perspective, not really, other than just a sideline cheerleader. I think that's probably my number one advice, is just know that they need the encouragement and they need that continual support. And even when you get frustrated and overwhelmed with maybe the negatives and things like that, or if you're even scared, if you're relying on your husband primarily as your financial support, that can be a really hard place to hear him struggle. So I think, have faith, encourage him, be supportive of him, and show him the respect that, that I think that helps him, that process. And so continually, even when you're frustrated, when you're down and having a hard time hearing the same thing over and over again, take that moment to try to say an encouraging word, or however he receives encouragement or support, extend that grace.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to say that, there's no way I could have done this without you, dear. Over the years, early on financially, you were the breadwinner, and I'm not ashamed to say that, but there's also the support of being able to vent. I know we've had lots of evenings where, it's it starts out as me venting and then ends up with us fighting about the stupidest thing, right, regarding the business. But you've always been there. You've always been supportive. There's been plenty of times where you had to leave on vacation early without me because I had to stay back and finish a job, and then I'd catch up, and you came to the airport and picked me up and all that stuff. So I just want to say that I would not be here without you, and that's why you are my support system, and I love you dearly for that. So I do want to ask you, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you feel like is important in this dynamic?
I think the important thing is that every day you are continually learning and investing in yourself so that you can be the best you for others. And for all of you that are listening, if you're in the Profit Club, you have an amazing guide. He is so passionate, so excited to help you achieve your goals and your business goals. And it's so fun to be your wife and get to watch you invest in other people. So I'm proud of you, babe.
Oh, thank you, dear. I got it on tape now, finally. Well, that's all I got for today. Special shout out to my wife for being on here and sharing with you all. I hope that was helpful to hear that from a wife's perspective. It's just a taste of some of the stuff we got coming up in the Hammer and Grind podcast. Hope you stick around. If you're not following us on our social medias already, go to Instagram, go to TikTok. We're pretty heavy on TikTok right now, getting a lot of traction there. Check out our Facebook page. Check out our free Facebook group, the Contractor Profit Group, or check us out at hammerandgrind.com/the Profit Club. And until next time, guys, be your best you.